Welcome to the Success Journey Show. Let's travel together through the lives of individuals on the road to success.
Hey, what's going on, travelers? It's Ricky Ventures and Marlon Madden, and we're back with you for another week of the Success Journey Show. Marlon, what's good, bro? How you doing today?
Man, I just try to blend in with your background. That's what I try to do.
Ooh, no, there's no blending in, man. There's no blending in with that, man. Woo.
Yeah, you see this? You see this, people? Every time I go up,
let me move my way.
higher, he got to do one better than me. You know what I'm saying? So now this is his new office that he built out the house.
It's all my handiwork, man. It feels good, man. You put your, I didn't know what I was doing. I wrote down on a piece of paper and, had a vision, saw some videos, and I was just like, I'm just going to get started. And it's funny because I took the plan that I drew and I taped it on the underside of the desk and put the date on there. Yeah. For every project that I do, I'm gonna make sure I tape the plan somewhere on that project, man. But yeah, it's my wife and I can't take all the credit. My wife did a lot of the painting stuff. I hate painting. So she definitely came in and was a savior on that part. And then also she's going to be doing the decoration. Right now she got some of the stuff in here, but she's definitely going to blow that out. And what you can't see is I'm on a standing desk right now. Standing up doing the podcast. And I made this standing desk table here. You see that? Yeah. So, yeah, man, my nights and here and the stylist is walking past as I'm talking about all this. Want to come get on camera? Come on, world, come see my beautiful wife. Come. You haven't seen her in a long time. Come, wife. Come, wife. Giving a shout out for. Come on. Come see. Watch out for the cord there. Hey, there she is. That's
the whiffle.
So yeah, man. Now everything is going good on my end, bro. Just working and doing some projects around the house. It's the first project we got done, and it just brings life when you start able to do some stuff like this. And but other than that, man, just running around with these kids, man. It's being like I say, man. I work full time. I have the businesses after work, do the projects after work, and then run a taxi at the same time.
Tell me about it. Yeah, man. Hey, I know everybody. What I want a lot of people to think about our travelers is you made that at the top of the year or last year at this time, you were making some New Year's resolution, because I know that's what you guys love to do. And on our show, we said we're not going to make New Year's resolutions because we don't believe in them in the form and fashion that everybody else does. So what I want you to do while you're driving, listening to this, like Ricky said, our show today is going to be awesome. It's going to be it's going to be a roller coaster ride. But while you're driving, you're on the beach, wherever you are right now, and you're listening, just think about what you said you're going to accomplish at the top of the year and all the goals and aspirations that you had, and just see where are you right now, and does it make sense that you make those New Year's resolution, or you implement it a different way. And if it's not working for you with the New Year's resolution, go ahead and implement it a different way. If you made a New Year's resolution and you accomplished it, hey, keep on doing what you're doing. But we just want you to know that into the new year, we don't wait for stuff to happen. We just, if it's December and we have to make it happen in December, I'm not waiting for January. So go ahead and just lock in and just take advantage of life. Because you saw when everybody listens to this, I know it's going to be late, but, in Kentucky, those people there that were going to make New Year's resolutions for next year, they didn't know that was their last night they were going to be alive when that tornado hit down. So go ahead and seize the day, take advantage of all the stuff that you can do today or while you're currently alive. And that's all I have, Rick, man. Hey, you can pick up our stuff. The successjourneyshow.com is where you can find all our stuff. If you want to pick up some of our apparel, you can do that on there. Check out any platform, The Success Journey Show, The Success Journey Show on YouTube, Instagram. On TikTok is Success Journey Show, and on Twitter is Success_show. And that's about it.
Yeah, so stay tuned, guys, as we transition into the next segment. Peace. Hey, what's going on, travelers? Welcome back. Welcome back. We are here at the greatest segment of our show, and that's when we bring on a guest. Go ahead. My words are all tangled up today, but a guest. And we're going to dive into her story, and it's none other than Lizzie Horvitz. And did I make sure I pronounce your last name right? So say it again for everybody. But Lizzie, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much, you both, for having me. I'm Lizzie Horvitz. You were very close.
Great. See, that's a personal goal I've had on my on my list. You know, you should see the pregame. I'm like, all right, Horvitz.
He
messed up Smith. He'll mess up Smith. Rick will be like, Rick is Smith.
It's amazing.
Oh man, but yeah, thank you so much for being with us. Why don't you share with all of our listeners and travelers all over the world just a little bit about yourself?
Thank you so much again for having me. So I started a company called Finch, which is basically a platform that encourages consumers to make better purchasing decisions based on the sustainability of products. So we rate products based on a variety of attributes, give them a score between 1 and 10. And then when they're shopping, they can choose a product. We'll tell them, you know, this gets a 4 out of 10. There are better options out there. We'll propose other options. I got into that because, so I've been passionate about sustainability for my whole career. I fell in love with sort of climate change solutions when I was 16. I lived off the grid. I went to a school in the Bahamas that was run just on rainwater, solar panels, wind generators. So it was to the point where, like, if it didn't rain, we were not allowed to shower. We went, I think, 13 days without showering. And this was 2004. So if you guys remember back to then, people obviously knew that climate change was happening, but it was in no way in the media like it is today, or really an understood thing to the extent that it is today. And so the way that I explain things is that I saw the solution before I fully understood the problem. I saw this beautiful way of living that doesn't rely on fossil fuels, and just wanted to dedicate my life to it. And so after college, I worked at a nonprofit doing environmental advocacy. That took me to get my M.B.A and my Master in Environmental Management at Yale, where I really focused on what companies can do to reduce their footprint and to be more sustainable. And from there, I went to go work for Unilever, which is, I'm sure you guys have a bunch of Unilever products in your house. It's Ben & Jerry's ice cream, it's Dove soap, Axe body spray.
Okay.
A lot of different products there. And I was doing supply chain and then sustainability for them, and had a great experience, but realized that, well, basically what happened was a lot of my friends and family started coming to me with questions around how they could reduce their own footprint. So, you know, I just had a baby, what type of diaper should I be buying? Or I just bought this deodorant, what is this ingredient doing in there, et cetera. And I didn't have all the answers, and I didn't know where to look. So I started a newsletter just aiming to sort of distill this type of information. And that sort of took on a life of its own, and Finch was born.
I love it. Man, there's so much that you said in there that we'll going to go over. But the first thing that jumps off into my mind was you're going and you're living off the grid completely, right?
At 16.
It's at a young age, right? What that first night, I know you had, and the first night was probably exciting. And if you can even remember that night, the first night was probably exciting, but was there ever a time you were like, I need to go back and get some, I need to go back to natural utilities because I can't do this right now?
Absolutely. I'll tell you what I wrote my college essay on, which was about halfway through the experience. It was a 3-month trip in the Bahamas, and halfway through, they take you on this sort of kayak excursion where they drop you off on the beach completely alone, and they leave you with like a handful of granola and a bagel, and that's it. You're not allowed to bring like anything else. And I was sitting there, and I was at first kind of excited. Like I've never, I didn't grow up with parents who were super outdoorsy, so I wasn't camping or doing anything like that. This was totally foreign to me. And all of a sudden, these massive crabs, the size of like dinner tables, dinner plates, started crawling out of the sand and coming up to me and started crawling all over me. And I got so terrified. I actually ended up throwing up because I was so scared. And that was one moment in my life where I was like, what am I doing here? And how do I get home immediately?
Oh, wow. That would be enough for anybody. I don't care what you're doing.
And to this day, I really hate crabs. I cannot. It's been 16 years and I'm like, get me away.
Oh my goodness. Oh man. So, you ended up there as a 16-year-old in the Bahamas. I'm from Jamaica. I have to, so, that's a fellow island. But how do you convince your parents? Your parents are not outdoorsy.
That's right. Yeah.
And it sounds like you're about to train to be Hannah. I don't know if you ever watched Hannah.
Exactly.
Right? So how do you convince your parents, like, hey, let me go be this assassin? I'm going to be trained to be an assassin. How do you convince your parents to do that?
It was amazing. So more of the backstory is that I went to the same school from preschool through what was supposed to be 12th grade. It was like 60 girls in a class. It was tiny, same people that you were 3 years old in class with, you would graduate with. And I wanted to be a famous actress. I was really into singing and acting and loved that whole scene. And I got into high school as a 14, 15-year-old and realized that I actually wasn't very good at acting. And so I should probably find something else to focus my time on. And my parents, I have to say, were fantastic. They were like, do you want to switch schools? Do you want to try something else out? They sort of opened up that door to me, which I'll be forever grateful to them for. And
they were probably relieved.
Yeah, exactly. They were like playing the recorder all around the house. And luckily, this school in the Bahamas had taken kids from my school before, so it was fairly understood. And they could talk to other parents and things like that. So I think they were fine about it. But my sister had just gone to college, and so for the first time, they were empty nesters. And I don't think enough about how tough that must have been for them. But to this day, I'm super grateful, obviously.
Man. Wow. So before we go to the next question, Rick, so that's two people. Let me tell you something. You guys are very insightful. You guys, you great minds are very insightful, because last week we interviewed one guy. He said he loved basketball. And at the age of 8 years old, he figured out he was not going to make it to the NBA. And now you at 14 is saying, figured it out, like, I'm not going to, I'm 43 and sometimes I'm on the court. I'm like, man, I could still make it to the NBA.
I mean, I still think I'm going to become like a professional hockey player, and I've like barely been on the ice before. So I totally understand what that's like, but it was best for everybody that I moved away. But I think what's really interesting is that, 16 is such a ripe age to sort of search for what you think you want to do for the rest of your life. Right. And I don't think it was the fact that it's not like I was waiting to find climate change and it just stumbled upon me. It was like, I was at that age where probably had I gone to astronaut camp, I would have wanted to be going to space, right? It would have been something totally different. And so I think it's more about the age and sort of like what's happening in your life at that time that really defines that more so than the subject itself, if that makes sense.
Yep. Totally makes sense.
So you're now into this sustainability. Hey, I'm getting introduced to it. And like you said, it was at a point where not too many people were talking about it. I know in my circle, my background's engineering, and I don't think I even shared this on the podcast ever before. So all the listeners, it's something new about me, is one thing that was very popular was a LEED certification, being LEED certified, right? So, everyone, all the engineers are like, I got to get LEED certified. And what it is, it's, I'm not gonna tell you what the acronym means. I'm gonna mess it up, but some leadership and energy and all that kind of stuff. Inefficiency. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So being a professional, everyone's raving about, you got to get it. So of course, most of us that were engineers got it. to help promote sustainability and design and things of that nature. And that was in like 2000, early 2000, mid 2000, somewhere around there. So when you're saying it was 16 out there, yeah, a lot of people weren't really talking about it. You know, nowadays it's a little bit more prevalent in the media, talking about, you know, sustainability and, you know, going around different buildings. You can see the garbage cans split up in different fashions. You know, a lot of different things are now publicized a little bit more. But back when you were doing this, like you come off that beach, off that experience, you know, what's in your mindset now as you're moving forward in this space? Like, how did you know what to do next, or who did you talk to, or how did you just keep pursuing this at that day and age when it wasn't as, you know, prevalent?
So, you know, I spent a lot of energy back then that I don't miss trying to convince people that this was even happening. You know, there were so many more deniers, for lack of a better word, at that point, who weren't even sure that we were having an effect on the temperatures changing. And then it was another hurdle where even when people thought that we might, it was like, well, what are we going to do about it? You know, we're going to lose so many jobs. And it's the same rhetoric that people are talking about now still, but it's a much smaller population, and they're definitely not the majority. So I think I spent a lot of time and energy trying to argue with people that this was the right move. And then, you know, in my high school, there wasn't a lot going on for sustainability, so to speak. So I tried my best to sort of integrate that into the school curriculum to the best abilities. But obviously, you know, that was an uphill battle. My school was really open to it, but it didn't stick or anything like that. I was just one person. And then my college decisions were based solely off of their environmental studies curriculum. And so that was something that I knew I wanted to continue. And what was helpful for me, and what still is really important to me, is that I'm surrounded by people who share similar interests and values and can connect on these types of issues. And so I feel like once I was in college, it was not only the times changing, but also I was just in this little bubble in Vermont where everybody understood that this was important. I really felt comfortable again.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yeah. Go ahead, Marlon.
Yale, right? So then you say, all right, I like their program, so I'm going to Yale. Explain how that works, because it's not just a school you just say, oh, I picked you, right?
Yeah. So
explain that process.
So I went to undergrad in Vermont at Middlebury. And I think it was maybe my sophomore or junior year of college, I learned that there was this graduate school at Yale. It was called the Forestry School. And I kind of became obsessed with it and was like, I want to do that someday. I don't think I was like smart enough to really make this a conscious decision, but I decided to work for a couple of years as opposed to going straight to graduate school. And I worked at this environmental advocacy organization, which I was obsessed with. It's called the Natural Resources Defense Council. I still think it's the best environmental nonprofit out there. And it actually, as an aside, was like the worst place to start your career, because it was the most amazing group of people and the most amazing experience. And it's like, oh, the real world actually isn't as bad as everybody
look like
says.
this.
And then you're like, oh, no, it is. I just got really lucky. So I was there, and it's a lot of legal support. It's like suing the government if they're making bad decisions, or suing companies that are illegally polluting, et cetera. And I just thought I would rather be within those companies making decisions from within versus, you know, having to sue them once they've already done these bad things. And I just kind of had this aha moment at that organization that the largest problems will be solved in the private sector. And we need nonprofits, and we need all these other government entities, but I think the biggest solutions will happen in the private sector. And so Yale has a great joint degree program where you can go to the forestry school and get your M.B.A. And so I just applied to both of those schools at the same time. And I actually did not get into the business school my first time around. I got into the forestry school, but I didn't get it. I had no business background. I got like a C- in econ in undergrad, and that was as close as I got. So I didn't get into the business school, and I just decided I might as well just go to the forestry school and reapply. And that's what ended up happening, where I was there and then I reapplied to the business school and got in my second time around.
Mm.
It was amazing.
Man.
And I applied. There are a couple of schools that offer the same program. Duke is one of them, and then University of Michigan is another. And I was really close to going to the University of Michigan, which would have been so fun to go to a Big Ten school. And I was excited to go to football games, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think just because I had been thinking about Yale since my early days of college, it felt like the right decision.
Did anyone ever have conversations with you around, the potential of potential earnings going into the sustainability space? Was that ever a consideration in your mind as to, man, I'm going to school for this? On the other end, are there jobs that, support what I want to do with my life? Or what do I, how do I see financial benefit from, working in this area for myself? How do you think about that aspect? How do you think that?
I think that was a really big reason why I decided to go to the business school. My dad is a lawyer, and I remember him giving me really good advice, which was, you're still so young and there's so many different paths to go, where worst case scenario, you completely shift interests and at least you have an MBA, right? If you're going to go to grad school, instead of this niche forestry degree, which I mean, plenty of people are absolutely killing it with just that degree. So this is not to say that it's impossible, but that was, from a financial perspective, that was sort of my mindset, is that you do have a higher salary with an MBA, and worst case, you have sort of the best bet of going into different fields with this more general degree as opposed to the specific ones. But on the flip side, you are adding a year of graduate school and tuition and everything. So it's always a trade-off. I think that I am I'm just a stronger worker in so many different ways from both of those school experiences, that I think it paid off from a financial perspective. But it's a tough decision. I mean, for everybody to think through how to do this in your 20s, nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm really glad you're bringing this perspective, because I think a lot of people have seen, just sustainability efforts, but not necessarily know the effort that goes around promoting it and living it every single day. I would love for you to just share a little bit more color with all of our travelers about, like, kind of break down kind of what you do, like, day to day in this space, so they can see a little bit more as to how, your role impacts just the whole effort in general.
Yeah, I love talking about that. And just to close the loop on what you were saying earlier, I remember when I was actually at University of Michigan at Admitted Students Day, at that sort of like big introduction, the head of Michigan said to us, the job that you'll have in 10 years doesn't even exist right now. And that has stuck with me forever, because it's so true. The sustainability field is moving so quickly that, when our kids are entering into this field, they'll be doing things that I are so beyond my comprehension and understanding. And so that's part of the fun, is that every day feels so different.
Yeah.
In terms of what I do, so, when I was at Unilever, I was working for these specific brands. There were 38 brands in North America, and people throughout the company would come to our team for questions like, how do we think about coconut oil versus avocado oil? Or what are the transportation implications of a tin of ice cream versus margarine, et cetera, et cetera. And so you're thinking about all these different sustainability issues. And that was super fun, because you're sort of a generalist learning about all these different types of environmental implications. Right now, what's been really interesting is that I'm not doing sustainability on a daily basis. I'm running a business, which is completely different, right? So entrepreneurship at some point when you're the CEO and founder, you're not really like in the weeds every day of the actual, like the meat of what you're doing. Right. You are, I mean, I'm doing some really unsexy things like paying invoices and talking to lawyers about contracts and things like that. Right. And then, on the other side, I am thinking about internal operations for my team and culture and going on a retreat and things like that. And then sort of the middle bulk is really thinking about what do we need to get done in the next week, month, 2 years to become the company that we really want to become.
Thank you for listening to the Success Journey Show. Please follow us on our social media on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at The Success Journey Show. Also, check out our website at thesuccessjourneyshow.com. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the show.
Hey, I gotta pause real quick. I'm gonna go crazy on the entrepreneurial side because that's what we love doing. But real quick, you said something. What's better, avocado oil or coconut oil? What was your response to that?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
Hey, we're just trying to. That's a bet that me and Ricky been having.
I think I don't know for sure, so don't.
Okay. Yeah. Just your thoughts. Yeah.
I think avocados are a much thirstier crop. They require a lot more water, and they're not grown in as many places as coconuts. And so, coconuts are probably better from that standpoint. They're able to be grown with a lot of other crops as opposed to in a monoculture, right, where you're clearing the entire plantation and only growing avocados or coconuts like that. So gotcha. I would say coconuts are a better bet.
Okay, good.
That's a good answer. You know, just by you, because I'm thinking about when you plant a coconut tree, you don't really have to monitor it.
No, it's just there.
It's just there. When you have the avocados, you definitely have to do some kind of, like you said, more watering, more everything. Because I lived in Temecula, and in there was a big they're the number one, I think, in the country when it comes to avocado, and those guys were going. Yeah, you're right, man.
It's a hard job.
Yeah,
that's a good answer.
I like that. I like that.
You sound like you're a professional, like you know about this stuff.
I can get my scientist to give you if I asked him right now, he would probably stay up all night writing like a 5-page summary about the comparison.
Figured it out the difference.
Yeah.
Oh, you're one of those guys. Just love it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I had to stop and ask that one real quick. So back to just the entrepreneurial side, right? So the first thing I want you to discuss in that end was making that transition, right? So now you're doing things that are, working on the business and not working in the business. And that takes a totally different skill set, mindset. What was your journey transitioning into that role? Being a founder of your own company, going from doing everything to growing it so you're having people working with you and doing stuff and now managing things. Talk about that evolution a little bit.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite things to talk about because I think I had a unique experience where I think what I didn't mention, because it was sort of a blip on my resume, is that after Unilever, I went to go work for a startup based in Southeast Asia. Did I mention that earlier?
No.
I went to go, I was pretty unhappy at Unilever. My day-to-day work was really interesting and I was learning a lot given my background, but it's really easy to get lost in a massive bureaucratic company like that. And I think it's a fantastic company. I don't have anything bad to say about them, but I personally I wasn't super lucky there because I didn't have sort of a mentor who was looking out for me, and you can get really lost. And so I was looking for other opportunities, and I thought to myself, this job at Unilever is really what I thought I would be doing for the rest of my life. This is why I went to graduate school. This is what I based everything off of. And so now that didn't pan out, I need to sort of go back to square one and think about all these other options. And a friend's older brother reached out and he said, I started this company in Indonesia. Would you want to come join? And I was like, absolutely. What do I have to lose? I have no idea about entrepreneurship. I don't know the first thing about starting a company, but I think I'm going to learn a lot and I'll get to go to Southeast Asia. So I pretty quickly became chief operating officer of that company, which was like so wild. And I really learned trial by fire. This boss, my friend's brother, gave me so much control and power. He was like, I trust whatever decisions that you make, just run with it. And so when you think about the juxtaposition from Unilever, I had literally since I was 16 been training to do the job that I was given at Unilever, and nobody gave me the opportunity to really like thrive and to have the autonomy. It was so hard to get promoted and people didn't believe in me, et cetera, to this role where I knew nothing, but my manager was like, just go for it. I believe you, was really fantastic for me to just gain the confidence to be like, wait, I love this and I actually can do it. And had I not had that experience with that company in Asia, I know for a fact I would have never started my own company, just because I didn't think that I had it in me and I didn't think that I knew how to do it. And it turns out I really did. So I felt really confident going into Finch. I decided right at the beginning of COVID, I'm just going to try this out. I think the most important thing that helped me was not worrying about what other people thought. And I would run these ideas through my head, like, what if I fail? What if I can't raise money? I just actually a couple of days ago was going through an old journal of mine from those early days. It was like March 2020. And I literally say, like, what if I can't get anybody to work for me, or I run out of money, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, that's a badge of honor these days. To be able to say that you tried something and failed is pretty cool, I think, at least in the circle that I run in. And so once I was stripped of that, it was like, what do I have nothing to lose. I was lucky enough to not have a family to support. It was just me. I think that made a big difference, but those early days were so fun where you're just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks.
So cool to fail. I love that. Go ahead, Mo.
Yeah. Cool to fail. Oh, man. Ricky, it's getting scary that you and I are starting a married couple or something. But anyway. So I would love for you to talk about your staffing, because you talked about your scientists and all that, so people understand what it takes. And also I'd like for you to talk about raising funds, if you would. So staffing and raising fund, I definitely want our travelers to hear about this, because I think these are some of the things that they're really harping on once they get over the hump of not living through somebody else's lens, like you were saying.
Sure. So I started this company formally in April. In July, I posted on LinkedIn. I'm a huge nerd about LinkedIn. I think it's like one of the best platforms. I posted on LinkedIn, mostly just for myself to hold myself accountable. I broadcast to the public, like, I am doing this. I'm starting this company. If anybody wants to work with me, reach out. And the amount of responses that I got back was insane. It was like 85 people wrote me messages, 35 people commented being like, I want to help you. I want to join, et cetera, et cetera. It was insane. And that is actually where I found a lot of my people, where it was like a friend of a friend, or someone saw the post and reached out and said, oh, Lizzie's doing this thing that we've talked about before. Because the idea of Finch is it's not brand new. Like, people have tried this before and thought of the idea many times. And so it just was the type of post that got a lot of interest for whatever reason. And that's where I found Mark, who's my head of sustainability and scientific research. That's how I found my first several interns. And then I found my first full-time hire, Jane, through a friend who I think learned about what I was doing. And she said, Jane's moving back from LA to New York. She's looking for a job in sustainability. Would you be willing to chat with her? And our first call was just, here's how I navigated, graduate school and Unilever. It had nothing to do with Finch. And kind of as an aside, I said, while you're looking, if you want to work for a couple hours a week, I could pay you in equity, because that's all I had at the time.
I was going to ask you.
and then it kind of evolved from there. And she is now like the most important person on our team. She's like keeping the ship running and keeping everything afloat. And so I would say in terms of staffing, it's like, you just have to, you have to say yes to people and give them a chance. The big caveat to that is, I've gotten in some trouble with not doing proper like background checks and like checking references. So those were some mistakes that I made. We just had a pretty bad experience where we found out that one of our employees had been not pulling her weight, lying. It just wasn't a good situation. And so I now have had to backpedal where it's not a fun thing to do, but I have to ask for several references and a background check and everything. And I found that anybody who has something to hide, that's a problem for, but anybody who doesn't have anything to hide is more than happy to share that information. So that's been a nice change.
Yeah. And then can you also expound on the raising that seed money or raising, because a lot of, man, now that question turned into twofold. Talk about when you find somebody and you have to explain to them, listen, I like what you do. I see you have the expertise, but I could only give you equity.
Equity, yeah.
And you have to convince this person that, hey, this company is going to be X someday, right? Yep. Because the equity now, that doesn't mean, that could mean like a bubble gum, right? Because they're like, oh, okay, equity in what? But then explain how you raise that money on the other side in order to have the funds to actually do that full-time hire and stuff like that.
Sure. I think I found that if I do too much convincing, it's probably not the right fit. If people are, if people really want to get paid their market salary, then working at a tiny startup is not the right fit for them. There's too much risk. They're clearly not in it for all the different reasons. And that's not to say like people deserve as much as they deserve. But it comes with a bit of like a leap of faith and taking a pay cut and working twice as hard probably as other jobs. So for me, I've taken that as a sign that it's not the right people. And for Jane and Mark, who are my full-time employees right now on the team, they just love Finch so much and they want to be along for the ride that it's worked out. And I also think equity does turn it. I mean, we all have to convince ourselves within Finch that this will become a really huge deal. And so I'm giving out equity that's going to be worth hopefully like dollars someday, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When you frame it like that, I think people are more willing, but it's what I'm not interested in doing is having people work for free, because I think then that's the type of work that you get, right? You get people who think that they have time for it, and then it's the first thing to fall down the list of things to do if something else comes up. There's really no incentive to be a team player if you're not getting any type of return.
Correct. Turn from it. Yeah.
So I sort of decided early on that, and this is, I think, unique to a lot of other entrepreneurs. So there's by no means one way to do things, but I didn't want to bootstrap like that. I think there are plenty of entrepreneurs who have successfully been like, I'm going to have everybody work for free for me for a year, and then we're going to raise money and blah, blah, blah. I needed that cash immediately so that I could get good talent. And I think to make money, you need to spend money. And so there's so many conflicting values with that, or not values, but so many conflicting things, like to raise money, you have a better bet of being farther along, right? Having something to actually show. So I kind of had to balance all those things. And I would be remiss to not mention that I did start with a small amount of my own savings.
That's good.
I didn't start with $0. I had my own things that I put into it, which also helped because I was on the hook for this. Like anybody who wanted to work for me, I was like, I'm putting my own money into this along with dedicating my days to it. So I think that was a good signal. And then, raising money was a journey. We did a pre-seed sort of friends and family round. And I think to start a company like this, you have to think that you're going to become the next Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And but like nice people, not maybe those two. You know, nobody works this hard to be like, I think I'm going to be like, you know, a small business owner, like pretty successful. You're like, I'm going to make it really far. And the more you tell yourself that, the more you convince yourself of it. And so going into fundraising, that was the best thing for me, was just to literally like pump myself up before every single conversation. And for every rejection I got, which were at least in the hundreds, I would think of it like, you know what, that's your loss. And you're going to be really bummed when you figure out that that's actually the real deal.
It's the opportunity.
Yeah. And I think I feel really lucky, because I think that that's just as much a personality, like in your blood and in your genes, than it is something that I actively tried to do. I tend to be just like more of an optimistic person, but the second that you start getting bogged down because you're second guessing your idea and what other people are telling you, nobody knows what your capabilities are as well as you do. Right. And so you have a 30-minute conversation with someone and they say, I don't think you have it. It's like, what do you know actually?
Yeah. 30 minutes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly. So that helped sort of my whole mindset with fundraising. And we got really lucky. We raised a little over $1 million. And so that then was like, okay, off to the races. Now we can actually build something so that, you know, will get us to the next year and a half. And then we can raise a really proper seed round, which we'll do in probably like 8 or 9 months.
Man, I'm loving it, man. Rick, I'm loving this because, you know, usually when you see, it's funny how the dynamics of you, when you're into sustainability, you're working in that company and you're saying, this is my ultimate, this is my job right here. This is the job I want. And then somebody offers you, because of the expectation that you thought that you wanted to have the autonomy of doing and controlling and making a difference, right? You say, hey, I have to leave. It's stifling my growth. And you go to somewhere where it's totally out of the realm of where you thought you were. And that's the thing that pushed the trajectory to actually get you to finish to the goal that you wanted to actually. It's crazy how life works, right? So, you know, Rick and I talk about this all the time, because when you try to make a change, when you first come into that, and not to jump my soapbox, but when you first come into that realm, you think going to place X is to do it. So, you know, Rick and I, we talk about, we're trying to build a college fund, right? Not college fund, but a scholarship. And we're saying that, the counselors at the school should be the ones that make the difference. But when you become a counselor, your hands are tied because of you don't have the autonomy to do what you want to do. You have to actually go somewhere else in order to be able to really inflict that change that you want to come down instead of coming up. And it's a conversation that a lot of people are not having, because a lot of times when we want to change something, we don't really understand that the positions don't allow you to do it like you think it is. Why is this person not doing this? Well, they're really tied. So, you know, somebody hearing your story or travelers, I'm really happy, because somebody right now is at a job that they want to do something, they want to make a change, and they're in the right spot, but they have no control. And in order to get the control, they're going to have to make that leap.
And you just have to leave. Like, I think that I recognize how lucky I am, and it sounds like the two of you are, to find things that you do every day that you're really passionate about. Not everybody has. Some people are just getting a paycheck, and like, more respect to them. Totally cool. If you are lucky enough to be like the three of us, you have to, you owe it to yourself to find a day job that you love waking up in the morning for, as cheesy as it sounds, because otherwise you're doing a disservice to everybody that you work with. And most importantly to yourself, obviously, if you're not getting if other people aren't seeing in you what you know is possible.
Correct. Oh man, this has been great. Oh man, we've talked about so many different dynamics, different aspects of your life, and to touch a lot of people's lives, from the schooling to understanding and having a passion in something and going out and just starting to live it, from transitioning from the employee mindset to a CEO and founder mindset for to believing in yourself through experience, being exposed to different things, taking chances, from getting mentorship from your father, even in wisdom, and listening, saying, "Hey, I'm young. Just go and experiment. Go in and see, and go ahead and write your path. Pretty much write your ticket to what you want to see in life." And man, I hope travelers across the world have really can see the different dynamics that play to make up who you are today, to be able to lead your team. I mean, you use a little words. You say, "Oh man," when you look back then. Back in the I forget the exact words you said, but it was like looking far back, but it was only 2020, right? It was like, going to my journey, my journal, like it was only 2020. I was like, wait a minute, it's only 2 years ago, right now, next month, right? But it seems like that when you're doing so much, and especially when you're starting a startup and all the activity that goes along with that, to build up to where it needs to be. So, man, kudos to you and just everything that you're doing. One question that we ask all of our guests is, if you can go back at a point in time and just have a minute with yourself, just steal them away and say, "Hey, let me." I forget that movie. What was that movie? Oh my goodness, man, it was gonna come to me after the show was over. But anyway. You go back in time, get a chance to interact with yourself for a minute. What will you say to yourself? So, and I'm going to go back to the beach. And right when those crabs start coming out of the sand, if you could pull Lizzie out, and say, "Hey, Lizzie, come over here behind this tree real quick. Let me talk to you." What would you, or the palm tree, I should say, what would you say?
It's so good. I think I would choose a different moment, which was right at my first day at Unilever in 2016. I had just graduated from Yale. I was feeling so high, and then I got to this desk job, and literally within 5 minutes was like, "I've made a horrible mistake. I don't think I belong here." And I wish I could have told myself, like, stick it out. It's going to be worth it, because you will not get to where you're trying to go without this experience, even though it's not great in the moment. And so, yeah, I think it sort of contradicts what I said earlier, which was you got to leave if you're doing something, but it's so cheesy and cliche, but everything's happening for a reason. So just write it out and be patient, because everything that people want will come probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Be patient, write it out. I love the couple catchphrases that you used. One was that it's cool to fail, in the circle that you're in, it's cool to fail, because you're experimenting something, and just giving it your all and see what comes out of it. So really appreciate you spending some time with us. Why don't you share with our travelers just where they can find you, they can support you, get onto your platform or whatever it may be.
This was so fun. Thank you both so much. So you can go to choosefinch.com, Finch, and our browser extension will be available in late January. And so I would encourage all of you to download that and make shopping a little more fun for everybody.
Love it. Well, travelers, hey, we come to the end of another show. We thank you for spending some time with us today. So I don't know if you were traveling in your car, you were sitting in your living room. Well, depending on where you are in the world, it could be cutting your grass. I don't know, but or on the ski slopes, whatever floats, whatever suits you at this time that you're listening to this podcast. But we want to thank you for spending some time with us. Hey, don't forget to go check out our website, thesuccessjourneyshow.com. And remember, you can listen to all of our previous podcasts on any podcast platform, thesuccessjourneyshow.com. We will see you guys again next week at the same time, the same place on the Success Journey Show. Everyone have a good one.
All right, one love.
Peace.
You've been listening to the Success Journey Show, where your dreams, drive, determination, and diligence are the foundation to success. For more information, check out thesuccessjourneyshow.com. The Journey Squad is here helping you to your destination.